please remember to leave a like, a comment, share the video about, and if you haven't already, subscribe. Thank you. Well, isn't this just fantastic? Captain's Log, Supplemental. I'm not a fan of deals, especially when they involve children. There is this odd prevalence of calling a rather heinous crime one thing when it concerns female perps, but giving it its real name when it's men. Let's discuss that. Hello everyone, welcome to the Halls of Injustice. We're doing a more stripped back version today for a reason. It's time constraint based. Sorry about that, folks. Today we welcome inmates number 159 to the ISO cubes. Owing to the nature of the crime they committed, but also the lack of information concerning the person, we don't actually have too much to work on, which is quite frustrating. But we can talk about the outrage on social media, and how journalists typically, always, invariably, inevitably call it by the wrong name. Inmates number 159's name is Andrea Serrano, not to be confused with Amanda Serrano. If at any point in this video I accidentally say Amanda instead of Andrea, I'm very sorry. Andrea Serrano is a 31-year-old pregnant woman. That pregnancy is part of the very crime committed, not that any outlet referenced it as such. And the reason why will become very clear soon enough. The crimes committed by Andrea Serrano took place in a town called Fountain, just south of Colorado Springs. Yes, that means this is going in America, and Colorado more notably. So Andrea Serrano won't see the inside of a prison cell despite admitting to a certain crime that she committed back in June of 2022. This crime involves a 13-year-old boy. The article says, having sex with. We'll get to that soon, don't worry. It later emerged that Andrea Serrano had become pregnant as a result of the sexual assault on the minor. She was freed shortly after her original arrest in July of last year on a $70,000 bond. The Fountain Police Department had charged Serrano with sexual assault on a child by one in a position of trust, as well as sexual assault on a child. Serrano simply admitted to the relationship. We'll get to that in a moment as well. In the pinned comments down below are all the sources. There are 4 separate articles. Each one references having sex with and relationship. If Andrea Serrano was Andre Serrano, it would not be called this at all, would it? It would be called something vastly more heinous, which is exactly what it is, but don't worry, it gets worse later. I promise you it does. There's one thing that might be added to this that could make it even more unacceptable. Something that takes it beyond the realms of what could be considered just a prison sentence. Which, by the way, if it was Andre Serrano, yeah, you're going to prison, betch tits. That's where you go. You go there, you get registered as a sex offender, and you stay there. In this instance, we already know Andrea Serrano is not for having sex with a 13-year-old. It is more commonly known in many places when you have sex with a minor as RAPE of the statutory variety. As you knew the person, it is also known as grooming. These words are not overly complicated to say, yet for many outlets, all linked down below, it is treated as if it is a lesser crime. I can promise you, no adult is thinking to themselves, well done 13-year-old for banging a 31-year-old. No, they're thinking, who let that 31-year-old woman near that 13-year-old boy? How damaged is she that her only outlet is a 13-year-old boy? How on earth did she manage to manipulate him into doing this in the first place? Because it's that, possibly overpowering in the first place. That's always a possibility. But then relationship is the word used, that becomes somewhat operative and we realize, no, it is actually grooming. To the Daily Mail, WSAZ News Channel, to the Gazette, to Spiel Times, fam, stop being so disingenuous and report on this correctly. This crime is RAPE. It is sexual of the assault variety. It is grooming. To reference it as sex with, I'd like for you now to take all the other articles. False equivalence inbound, everyone, buckle up. Take every version of it, where a female or a male adult takes advantage of a minor, and just call it has sex with. Please, Let's normalize this kind of crappy behavior. Did I need a sarcasm sign for that part? Really? It is never this, and should never be treated as such. It is grooming and sexual of the assault variety. RAPE statutory. The prison sentence should be severe. The deterrent is a must. What makes it worse is Andrea Serrano got pregnant with a 13-year-old boy, because he's going to do so well in the workforce paying child support for that. Well done for taking away his youth, his future, to create another future. So understandably on social media, you have people saying the term is that word. It's not having sex, it's abuse, it's a crime. In the words of Ready to Glare, just because the victim is male and the predator is female doesn't mean that he wanted it, it's abuse. Retweeted with, nope, it's definitely this crime. If the roles were reversed, there'd be so much more outrage. He is a minor, it is that word. For the sake of YouTube, I can't actually say it, I can only spell it, because YouTube are genuinely this bad. Back to the article though, because I haven't gotten to the part that makes this a little bit more, God. So it was widely reported that Andrea Serrano's lawyers had come to a plea deal with prosecutors that will in turn force her to register as a sex offender but means she will avoid prison. Since the arrest, she has given birth to the baby. The child is in the care system. His family are planning to petition the courts to gain custody. The victim is now 14 years old. Serrano was first questioned by police after a therapist found out and came forward with the allegations. After being interviewed, she confessed. He looked at her like a mother figure and even called her mom before, according to the criminal affidavit in the case. The victim's mother told KKTV, I feel like my son is robbed of his childhood. Now he's having to be a father. He's a victim and he's going to have to live with that for the rest of his life. I feel like if she was a man and he was a little girl, it would definitely be different. They would be seeking more. I feel like because he is not a woman, they are not. They are having compassion for her. At the time of her arrest, Serrano had been living with the victim for a time, with no context provided in any article as to the reason for that. The victim, John Doe's actual mother, told the Gazette that she spoke with the judge in the case prior to the plea deal being accepted to voice her displeasure at the deal even being offered in the first place. And that is understandably so, when you can see that the criminal justice system is not showing any level of equality, fairness, in the context that if the law says this, why is it so gendered? Why does it not accept male victims and treat female perpetrators the same way it does male perpetrators? This has led to a life-changing moment for this kid, where he now has to be a father at the age of 14. I know people in their late 30s who dread getting someone pregnant. A 14-year-old having to step up like that? No doubt relying on family to assist, putting additional strain on the family, all because he was violated by Andrea Serrano. KKTV's report says that Andrea Serrano's plea deal is to a lesser charge and that the judge could still sentence her to 10 years to life of sex offender intensive supervised probation. In this context, with what has been agreed, how they managed it in the first place is a big fat no. Serrano faces a hearing in May. This in turn determines the length of the probation. For the sake of it, I will in a future Halls of Injustice provide an update to that. The Gazette, another outlet that I've linked down below, reports that the lesser charge, and this is where it gets darker, is one of incest, which is a Class 4 felony in Colorado. As far as I was aware, Class 4 is quite low down on the felony ladder, more commonly known as a minor felony. I'm not entirely sure how incest is Class 4. You would have thought it would be a little bit up that ladder, but I'm sure Colorado has a fantastic explanation for why incest is such a low priority in the criminal justice system that it can't be recognized as the vastly more severe crime than it is treated. Prior to a probation hearing, Serrano is also due in court in March, because he also faces 2 additional misdemeanor charges for violating the terms of a restraining order. No additional context is provided on that, so one is not entirely certain what the nature of that includes. One would surmise it involves that child and John Doe. So not only did she groom John Doe, sexually of the assault variety John Doe, but it turns out incest plays a part. That's not good. In fact, that makes it a whole lot worse for the child. Genetic issues could well arise because of that. This is beyond the pale of irresponsibility. How pathetic is Andrea Serrano's life? She couldn't find a man to be with, and she had to turn to her family and go, well, share and share alike. I don't understand how a plea deal was agreed upon here. A prison sentence should have been a must. Clearly, this is a case of, well, maybe in the future that child might want their mother. No doubt that played a factor. No doubt at all. She should be locked up for a long time.